Welcome to MAPP Presents. My name is Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk The Walking Dead Q&A 65 Negan Part 2. All these questions are going to have to do with Negan in a way. Like I said in the last Q&A, it's either Q&A videos or nothing at this moment because the other videos I'm working on take a little bit of time to piece together, but you're going to really like those. So let's jump right into the questions here. Colin Van V asked, isn't it a huge honor to be Lucille on The Walking Dead as an actor? Absolutely. If I was cast on The Walking Dead and eventually became Lucille, I think it would be a huge honor. Andrew Atkins, hey man, love your videos. I got a few questions for you. When Negan makes his long-awaited debut, do you think his speech to Rick will be the same or changed? Do you think they will make the minor characters like Aaron and Eric useful in the future? Do you think they will mix up Negan's feelings towards Carl in the show differently from the comics? Alright, first off, the speech will be similar to the comics but changed obviously for the show for, obvious reasons, and then to fit the story better and the person because they could flesh out Negan better now since they know where the character's going. Aaron and Eric, yeah, I do think they could add more to their stories, especially Aaron. It looks like they're doing that already. Yeah, make them more useful. And as far as Negan's feelings towards Carl, I still believe they can do something very similar to what they did in the comic. Dawn of the Dead. Dawn. Dawn as in the name Dawn, not Dawn as in, Dawn. Anyway, Dawn of the Dead. In your opinion, if Carol was the chosen one to die by Lucille, wouldn't that be a slap in the face considering her past? Well, I get what you're saying, and if some fans were like, oh yeah, it would be, I'd understand because the whole abusive, thing, but honestly, it could be anybody that we're attached to from the earlier on, maybe season 1 and 2-ish, and I don't think it would be, that controversial in the aspect of it wasn't impactful enough, if you get what I'm saying. But I don't know. There's good arguments for Carol as well, but we'll get to who I think it should be, because a lot of people still think I'm stuck on Morgan, but that's not quite the case. Hambone4815. I haven't heard anyone mention the fact that the Saviors have already let Rick and company know that they have at least equal firepower. In the comics, they have had no clue, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're right. I was actually going to wait for my other video coming soon to talk about this, but let's talk a little bit about it now. What are my thoughts on the decision? My thoughts are this. Yes, in the comic book, they made it seem like the Saviors didn't have bullets, and they tricked Rick into being overconfident, and then they showed that they did have bullets. However, in the comic, that literally happened right before All Out War. So I don't think we need it. I think we can have the reveal that Negan's got a good solid base of people, maybe a few guns even, but it might look as if Rick could beat them. Like, this is a fierce foe, but it might look like Rick could stand a chance, Rick and the gang, but it's going to be difficult. And then once Rick goes for it, that's when we get the reveal of the extra guys, the extra weapons, and that way it will add to that scene as a whole. So I think we could do that. But not only that, I feel like they're going to change that entirely because it happened quick. In the comic book, it happened very quick. It was like, look, I'm Negan. I'm taking your shit. We had a little bit of interactions, not much. And then from that point on, Rick was like, Andrea, run to the bell tower. We're going to do this. We're going to do this now. And we jumped right into All Out War. So it happened really quick in the comic, and I think they'll flesh that out in the TV show. The Egg. What do you think about Jeffrey Dean Morgan keeping his beard for Negan? No. I want it to look like the comic. I like watching the comic, characters come to life as real people. Like I said, I wouldn't want a blonde, white Michonne. I want comic book Michonne brought to the screen. Minor characters, I think minor characters are more flexible. Blake Manning. Who do you want to be killed by Negan? Oh, we did get to it. Before I said Morgan, and that, a lot of people, it gets frustrating because I'll say something, people will pick up on one thing, and that's me picking Morgan, and then they'll forget that in order for Morgan to work, you would need the specifics to fall into place, meaning Morgan would have to do something to not only win over the survivors, but to win over us as an audience. Now, so far, he's not doing that on an emotional level. You know what I'm saying? The way somebody like Glenn would be, because Glenn's like a sweetheart young kid who doesn't want to whatever. Now Morgan's going in a different direction, and it's an interesting one in my eyes. I like the direction, now that I've been thinking about it, I like that direction they're going with Morgan, and I'm curious to see, because I don't believe it's going to stick. It's to an extreme, and extremes break. They're making conflict for a reason, so I'm curious to see what the end result's going to be. Now, I do have a sliver of hope that Morgan could bounce back in a way that would shoot him up to star power, and then they can bring in the Negan kill, which would crush people. If that's not the case, now keep this in mind, because this is important. If they don't articulate the story well enough for Morgan to have that, redemption to the fans, and don't take that a different way. I'm not saying he needs a redemption. You get what I'm saying. If they don't do any of that, I just want it like the comic book. Give us one death, major death, that is from the comic. That is all. I want Glenn. And I know everyone under the sun wants Daryl, and at this point it's just, I hear you. If they pick him, alright, that works too, but I want the comic book death on screen. Jack Lewis, with the pacing of the show now, how do you think they can hold off All Out War until late end of season 7? There's not a lot of dramatic arcs that they can extend across the two halves seasons over what comes in. Listen, yeah, the volumes aren't thick, especially the All Out War volumes, but we have to look at the material itself, not just specifically what happens in the comic book. Look at the potential of material. We have somebody who's going to force Rick and them into a mafia style dictatorship overruling position. You can build on that. You can flesh it out. You can add story in there. So then once you do that, now you're filling it out. Even in All Out War. You know what? All Out War, technically, what happens in the comic, that might even only take up a half a season, maybe even a full season on screen. I'm more worried about them being worried about having a full season that's all war. I think it could work in certain ways, but I'm worried they don't think it could work. Let me put it like that. Put it this way, they break it down to each half season is its own different story, and lately I've been loving that, but I don't want that formula to fuck up what could potentially be a really epic thing. If we have an all-out war, then you can stick with that formula, but do something like, Rick gets the upper hand in the first half type of a war, we're leading in the battle, and then the back half of the season is where they start losing that momentum, they start losing the war, and shit goes downhill. And that's very, very similar to the comic book. Rick got the upper hand in the first part, Negan got the upper hand in the second part, seemed like he was going to crush him, and then they resolved it the way they did. But I definitely think there's potential to fill it out. Dan Willingberg, would you stop watching if they altered Negan in any major way, such as making him swear less or not at all? No, that's not enough to make me stop watching. If the story is shit, I will stop watching. Mr. Quarter Cent, Ronnie, do you think if Negan does appear in the finale in April, that episode will be called Something to Fear? I think it should be. After that, if they call it Something to Fear, it just seems like it lost all of its point. There's just no point. Whenever Negan appears on screen, yes, that episode should be called Something to Fear. Tulip Chick 34. Do you think Negan's harem with women sitting around in their underwear will work on TV, or do you think it will turn people off, mainly female viewers who see it as demeaning or exploitive? To say that in entertainment, we need to be careful what the bad guy does so he doesn't offend some people. We all need to just end it. Like, where's the asteroid that's going to take us out? And I'm not saying this to you. I'm saying this to anyone who would be offended by that. Negan does some shit you're not going to like. He's a villain. Even if it was a good person doing something you didn't like, they're showing their flaws. This is entertainment. I just don't know how else to put it. They are already setting it up because they said Negan wants ass that's willing. They did that in episode 6. So they're already setting Negan's stuff up. As far as how much will they show or how will it look, I think it would absolutely work, and I don't think it matters, because a woman won't see that and think like, oh shit, The Walking Dead just, is saying all women are like this. No, because then look at Michonne, look at Carol, look at Maggie, and so on and so on and so on. There are strong women. They can show weak women and not worry about being offending or demeaning or exploitive. Yeah, and again, that's not to you. That's to anybody who sits there and thinks, oh, what a villain does on a TV show is going to offend me so much. I think that is utter bullshit. It's a villain. He's the bad guy. With that mini rant aside, again, not towards you, TuLipChick34, but with that mini rant aside, we're going to stop for here. I got to go get more videos done. Thoughts and opinions on all the questions we went through here, and be sure to ask fresh questions. I'm going to be pulling questions from the comments section. Go ahead and put them down there. Also, what are we, close to 38,000? I'm trying to go ahead, because every time I do the exact number, we're always like a few hundred past that by the time I edit and upload. So I'm going ahead. We are almost at 38,000 subscribers, on the road to 100K. Huge thank you. Be sure to participate in the Q&A, ask a question, and also give me your thoughts and opinions on the topics we covered. If you have a different opinion, let us know. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.